As you work in Word, you will occasionally find that you want to have your reader of your document go to another document and read it, or at least make it available for their reference if they so choose. You might also decide to point them to a website, or maybe even another section of your document. Well, how can you do that? Well, it's very easy. You add in a hyperlink. So today we're going to look at those. Hi, I'm Terry, one of the Consumer Technology Specialists for Mid-Continent Public Library. And let's look at links, hyperlinks, and bookmarks. For our first example, let's say that I'm trying to encourage people to go to Mid-Continent Public Library's website. And in that process, I would like to make that URL of the website visible. In that case, what I'm going to do is create a link. So all I need to do is go to the right here of where I have my sentence explaining that people should go to that library website. I simply type in the website, not keeping it hidden at all. And then when I press enter, it turns blue and underlined. Now the idea here is that anytime people see that blue text with an underline, all they need to do is, when they hover their mouse, it'll even tell them, hold down the control key, and immediately their mouse pointer becomes a pointy finger hand kind of thing. We'll click on that link, and it opens up the Mid-Continent Public Library homepage. And then, of course, I can go back to Word to see that once I have clicked on that link, then it changes the color of that link to let me know that I have visited that site before. As we begin looking at hyperlinks, I've added another sentence to our really short document here. And I'd like to show you how Word has kind of a hidden feature, which is the rand function. And it's simply equals rand, and then in parentheses, the number of sentences you want and the number of paragraphs you want. And it's a really nice way to generate basically kind of random text if you want to create an example document. So let's say that I've typed in this sentence about how rand is a really powerful shortcut, and I would like to show people an example of how that text looks. Well, what I might do is come over to the Word example and double click to select it. And then I'm going to go up to the left to the Home tab, and then to the right of it, go to the very next tab, Insert. Now from this Insert tab, we're going to go to the right, just kind of to the right of middle here, to the Links group. And the Links group has 3 buttons. We're going to look at 2 of them today. The first one is Link, and then the next one is Bookmark, and then you also have Cross-Reference. What we want to do is find Link, the first button, and click that drop down. And first of all, it gives me a list of recent items just in case one of those recent items is what I want to link to. But we'll come down to kind of the regular way of doing things, which is Insert Link at the very bottom and click on it. And it brings up our Insert Hyperlink dialog box. Now with the Insert Hyperlink dialog box, you have 4 choices. You can link to an existing file or web page. You can link to a place in this document, which is basically a bookmark. You can create a new document, or you can actually link to an email address, which would be a really nice shortcut. Although I imagine people don't use this a whole lot. So we're going to look mainly at the first 2 options here, existing file or web page, and place in this document. Now to the right of that, the text to display is already example because that is what I selected. And then below that, it says, where do we want to look to find that example document? Well, it's going to default to documents just like most other Microsoft products. So I'm going to go to the right of that box and click the drop down because I've saved my example document on my desktop. And as I click on my desktop, you'll notice that on the left of where I have the list of all the files, I even have some choices of where I can look for that document. So I can look in the current folder, I can look at browsed pages, or even recent files, which was kind of that first choice that we had, wasn't it? All right, what we want to do, though, is simply come to the right and scroll through my list of documents, and it's kind of at the bottom here, text generated by Rand, and I'll click on it. And then below that, we also have a place where it displays the address of where that document can be found. Well, let's click OK. And now that word example that I selected is in blue text with an underline. And when I hover my mouse over it, it says, well, press Control and click. I get the pointy finger hand. I have taken people to a totally new document. You can see that up here in the title bar, where now it says text generated by Rand. And then here is my example of how you can use that Rand function in Word and some of the phrases that it uses, which is pretty interesting just in itself. Well, let's go back to the original document then, because now that I've gone to my hyperlinked document, this original has turned its text a different color to show that I have visited at least one time. If you prefer to either right-click or use a keyboard shortcut, you can also do that to bring up that Insert Hyperlink dialog box. So let's look at another example, and again, what I'm going to do is simply select the word example, but this time I'm going to right-click, and it will show me almost at the bottom here, link, and then as I go to the right, it'll say, okay, what do you want to do? Now you'll notice that these options are exactly the same as what we had when I went to Insert and Link. We can link to recent items, we can search for files, or we can insert a link. So let's do that, where again, it's showing us that it's text to display as example, it's an existing file or web page. I need to change documents to desktop though. And then I will look for that same document, text generated by Rand, and click OK. And then when I use my Control and click option, it opens that same page very easily. So another way to add in a hyperlink, and don't forget Control K because it does the same thing. It just depends on what you want to do and how you like to work. So far with our examples, I've had words that have been pre-typed, but you don't need to have pre-typed words to create a hyperlink. So let's go down a line and let's just say, okay, I want to insert a link. And then we'll go down to Insert Link. And we're going to just insert another link to the Mid-Continent Public Library website. So we are all ready to go with existing file or web page. What do I want people to see? I want them to see Mid-Continent Public Library. Where do I want them to look? Well, really, I want them to look at a web page. So I'm going to come down here to the address and totally kind of skip that middle section for look in. And what I'm going to do is type in the address. And then on the right, click OK. So here I have a hyperlinked Mid-Continent Public Library. It's in blue. It's got the underline. When I do Control-click, it takes me to that home page. Even if you forget to have text and you're just so anxious to get that link in, you can create the link, figure out where it is, and then add the text to the top of that dialog box. So far, as we've looked at websites that we might want to hyperlink to, I've already known the URL. But what happens if you need to look for that URL and then somehow copy it and paste it in? What are the steps for doing that? Well, in this example, we're going to look for the MCPL Mo channels Word Basics playlist. And so I've typed in most of those words. Let me add in channel here. And then, matter of fact, I'll even put a colon in there, I think. And then I'm going to go to YouTube where I can find this path of MCPL MO and then the Word Basics playlist. So let me click. And I've already done some scrolling down on this web page. So here we have Microsoft Word Basics playlist. And below the thumbnail for that playlist, it says, well, don't you want to view the full playlist? And I'll click on that. And it opens the playlist, but it also gives me in the address bar the address for this playlist. So I'm going to go to the right of that really long string of what looks like random letters, and we'll click on it and turn it blue. We'll have a blue background. And then on my keyboard, I'm going to use Control-C to do a copy. Now that I've copied that URL, I can go back to my document and I'll select my text. And I'm going to go this time to Insert above the ribbon and then to the Links group and Link. Click the drop down and we're going to go clear down to the bottom here to Insert Link. And it has picked up the text that I selected, MCPL channel, Word Basics playlist, and where the address is, I have an insertion point, so I'm going to paste in Control-V and then click OK. Now it turns that text, the MCPL MO channel text, blue with the underline, so I can use Control-click, and it will take me back to that Microsoft Word Basics playlist in YouTube. One of the more unique ways you can create a hyperlink is to actually connect to an email. And it's kind of hard to figure out how you would use that, but I think I have a pretty good example in that if in your document you would want people to contact you, then you could set it up so that their email would open and they would have your email address and then they could send it to you. Now, if you have this kind of a link, the email and Word need to be sort of linked together. So it's a multi-step process here. But let's see how this would work. Be sure to contact us, and then we would go to Insert and Link, click the drop down for Link and go all the way to Insert Link. And then what is the text to display? Well, contact us. And our email address is, well, kind of a fictitious one, actually. And as soon as I started typing it, you'll notice that it has mail to here. So let's see, let me finish typing in that address. And then we might even want to put in a subject. So it would be something like help needed. And then down at the bottom right, we can click OK. In my document, I have be sure to contact us if you have any questions. So when they click on this link, it opens email. Now I went through some steps to connect the Gmail account to this link, but look at this. So now they're going to send anything to me that I want them to send. It even has that subject of help needed, and then I could type, as the person who's opened up this email, I have a question, etc., and even send it. Pretty slick, isn't it? So this is one way to communicate with people as long as you're sharing a document and they can get to that hyperlink and use it. Now let's look in a little more detail at how we can take a large document and put places in it so that I can create a link, and then from that link go to another place within that document. And that is so amazingly helpful when you have a super large document. Well, what we need to do is we need to create a destination for our link, because we're not going to another document, we're not going to a web page, we're going to a place within this document. And that place within the document is called a bookmark. And if you think about it, you have a book, you put in a bookmark. When you grab that book again and you want to go back to that place, you simply go to where you've put in that bookmark. So it kind of makes sense why it's called that. It's a destination, some other software will call it. We have a section 1 here, and we even have a picture, but generally your link will be kind of toward the top of your document, and then your bookmarks tend to be toward the end of your document. Well, let's figure out one here. Let's say to make your document look professionally produced. So maybe our bookmark is professionally produced. We're going to go to Insert and Bookmark. Now, when you create a bookmark needs to have a name. And for this one, we'll just call it Produced. Generally, you want your bookmarks to make sense, but to be unique and to be short. So Produced seems to be okay. Now on the right, I'll click Add, and then when I go back to that bookmark button, it shows that I have a produced bookmark and I have a table bookmark that I already created. Also at the right, you can see that I could delete either of these bookmarks at any time, but they're also kind of a neat way to navigate in your document. So if I want to go to Table, for example, I don't remember where I put it, over at the right I can click on Go To, and it takes me to that bookmark. If I go to Produced and click on Go To, it shows me what that is as well, and even the text that I selected to kind of link to that particular bookmark. Down at the bottom, you can sort your bookmarks by name or location. So that's just kind of up to you. Okay, well, we now have a produced bookmark. I'm going to close. And then up at the top, we're going to create a link. And let's go with different galleries and right-click on that. We'll go to link because we can do that as well. Insert a link. But what we are going to do is link to a place in this document, and you may need to click on that selection to have this show. Now, text to display, it picked up our different galleries, and then look at this. We have a way to go to the top of the document, to go to a heading styled text if we want to do that, or we can go to a bookmark. Well, let's go to Produced, and down at the bottom right, click OK. I have different galleries. I'll do a Control click, and it takes me to, as I look at my blinking insertion point, it's a little hard to see, but there it is, professionally produced. It took me right to it. Well, let's go down to the bottom. To get back to the top of the page, however you want to use this, we could select this text. And I'm just going to do a right click this time and link, and we'll insert a link. But again, we're going to go with a place in this document, and let's look at this top of the document choice and click OK. So now if I use Control click, it takes me to the top of the document. Now another thing that we can do is click to a piece of text that has been styled. It uses a heading style of some kind. So let's go here and just do Themes and Styles. And again, we're going to just, from the Insert tab, go to Link, go down to the bottom to insert a link, and let's choose the section heading 3 this time, which is also a kind of a destination, a way to move around in this document. We'll click OK. We'll hold down our Control key, click Themes and Styles, and it took us to section heading 3. Now, using links is an amazing thing, but using links with bookmarks within your document can be so helpful to the people who are trying to navigate in your document. Let's use Control Home to go back to the top. And then I'm going to scroll down just a little ways because I do have a picture. Now I can use this picture, this image, as the basis of a link as well. So it could be, again, that I would like to say, ooh, I love this book. Maybe I want to link to Mid-Continent Public Library homepage. Well, I can do that. All I need to do is click on that image to make sure that it's selected, and it will get sizing handles around it. Then we can go to Link in the Insert tab, or we could right-click, or we could Control-K, and then go down to Insert Link. And I'm going to go back to that first choice of existing file or web page. And it says, well, text to display, well, there isn't any now, but what is the address? Well, we will type in www.mymcpl.org and click OK. And then I'm going to click off of the picture, so I've kind of deselected it. And now I should be able to look at that. As I hover my mouse over the image, to the right of the image, it even says we can Control-click to follow the link, and it shows the link. So let's Control-click, and it opens up the web page. So whether we use text or an image, we can create a link that will go to a document or a website or a place within our document, so that there is so much visibility and readability for the people who are viewing your document. Now, along with that, there are a couple of tips that I would like to share. One is, when you share a document with people, and especially if you're then going to link to another document, depending on the circumstances, you want to be sure that people have access to wherever you are linking to. Otherwise, they'll get some sort of an error message saying that they don't have permission to open the document or something like that. If you have a document that you are linking to another document and it's possible, one of the optimum things to do is to keep your original and the one that's being linked to in the same folder. It just seems like that will work better than if you have a document, and especially if you're on a network, then they have to go to a different drive in a different folder. Sometimes things happen to your links when you have all of those extra steps involved. So if you can keep your documents in the same folder, that is really a great idea. And that is links and bookmarks. To learn even more, be sure to go to mymcpl.org/online learning for such great resources as Universal Class, LinkedIn Learning, Learning Express Library, and Udemy Business. We also premiere new videos every Wednesday and Friday at 1 o'clock. If you miss a video premiere, you'll still be able to find it later when it's convenient for you. You can find us on Facebook at MCPL 360, and you can find us on YouTube by going to our MCPL MO channel.